Welcome back to Senior Living NTX. Today, my guests are Jacob Hale and Lindsey Hughes with the Hale Law Firm. They're going to talk to us a little bit today about how we can use Medicaid to pay for our senior living. Jacob, Lindsey, why don't you introduce yourself?
You go ahead.
After you.
I'm Lindsey Hughes. I'm an attorney with the Hale Law Firm and been practicing in this area of law for about 10 years.
I'm Jacob Hale, one of the brothers at the Hale Law Firm. This is a firm that offers probate, estate planning, but what we do in particular is elder law, which we consider Medicaid qualification primarily for nursing facility patients or people who are at home and need home health care. That's what we do, is help them arrange assets to qualify for Medicaid as easily as possible and as efficiently as possible.
Well, thank you, guys. So, like they said, we're going to talk about Medicaid and how you can use it. Not every community or nursing home takes Medicaid, but what we're going to talk about today is how you can know if your Medicaid is going to qualify. So the first thing I want to ask is, what is kind of the first step? We had a personal experience with my grandmother. We just went to the nursing home and said, how does this work? We didn't even know we could go to an attorney that could help us protect assets or help get all the paperwork done. So where would people start? What's the first thing they would do?
Yeah, that's the main issue. It's not obvious that this is something that you need an attorney for,
Right.
or that you should have representation for. If you're getting a divorce, you know that you need an attorney. If your dad passes away, you know you need an attorney to go to court. This is not something that people initially think, I'm going to need a lawyer for this, or a lawyer could help me. But the very first thing you should do is, if you're contemplating nursing facility care for a loved one, or what's more typical is that someone falls, they go to the hospital, and they're discharged from the hospital to a nursing facility for rehab. And as a family member, you're thinking, okay, is this long-term? How long am I going to be here? If my insurance runs out, what do I do if they can't come home quite yet, whether it's for a few months or indefinitely? The first thing you should do is call a law firm like us, the Hale Law Firm, because what we always do is free initial consultations. And those consultations can be an hour, 2 hours. We've had a 3-hour conversation with somebody, and in multiple conversations. We talk about a lot the first day. If you want to call back 2 days later and say, hey, I need to bring my brother in here to talk to you guys, it's all free. All of that's free. Our goal is to give you as much information as possible. Absolutely free. We'll tell you exactly what your assets are looking like, whether we think you need an attorney or could use one. If you are the type of person who likes to do things on your own, we encourage it. And we give you the tools that you need to do that on your own if you think that you can do it. And then, but by the time that conversation ends, you will understand why an attorney would be necessary or useful for you. Because folks who come in, they may have $100,000, they may have $50,000, they may have $1,000, they may have a couple of bucks floating around in a checking account. All of those people deserve and could use a consultation to figure out exactly what your status is, how far you are away from Medicaid eligibility. Because sometimes there are two types of people. There are people who automatically disqualify themselves by thinking that, well, look, I've got $40,000 or $100,000 or $300,000. There's no way I could ever qualify for Medicaid. The people who disqualify themselves, they're in that arena. And what we try to tell them is, no matter what you have, asset-wise, no matter what you have, we can preserve 75, 85, 95, 100% of those assets from spend down in a nursing facility. And then you have the other bucket of people who have so little that they think, well, I should qualify for Medicaid with ease. There should be no problem. I'll just shoot the application off. It'll be approved. And that's that. Well, the problem is that sometimes those people, they have very little, so they have very little margin for error. So if they're wrong and they get denied, the nursing facility continues to bill. And so those bills can be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 before you finally figure out that there was one thing that you were missing that made you ineligible, whether it be a small life insurance policy that you forgot about, or whether it be a little lot that you own by a lake somewhere where you own it's worth nothing to you, but to Medicaid it's worth something. Or you've got two vehicles, one that you use and one that's a spare over here. But that extra vehicle counts against you. So what we want to do is clear up, even for the easiest cases, we want to clear those obstacles, or at least let you know that those obstacles exist so that you can go to the nursing facility empowered to say, hey, look, I talked to an attorney and here are my issues. Can you help me for free, whether you engage us or whether you just take the information we give you, take it to the facility and say, here are my issues.
Okay. That's awesome. And that's a lot. That's really good information. The three big things I heard. Number one, guys, free consultation, right? It doesn't cost you anything. What I heard, an hour, 2 hours, maybe more, depending on the situation. And I'm big on, we don't know what we don't know until we know it. People who have assets, who think they don't qualify, even if you don't get to keep all the assets, you said, 50%, 70%, 85% of the assets is better than none of the assets are spending it all out of your pocket. And then the bucket that we personally fell into with our family and with a lot of people that I meet and talk to are they think they should automatically qualify, right? And then they don't. And then it's this huge pain of you continue getting billed. Can you talk a little bit more about that one? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things. People think I should just get it. And it's a small little thing that prevents them. So how do you help them with that? Like, is it just come talk to us, or are there some other practical steps?
Well, I think part of it is that in some cases, different nursing facilities, the staff at the nursing facilities, some are very savvy. They've been doing it a long time. They are able to spot issues. And then there are some others who, look, the people who are helping you are perhaps very new themselves, and they don't have any experience filing these applications or troubleshooting potential applications. And one of the issues too is that Health and Human Services is forbidden to give you advice.
Ooh, that's really good. Did y'all hear that? I did not know that. I'm finding that out real time.
Their caseworkers can no longer give advice to clients about what's wrong with their case. They can deny it, and they'll tell you the reason for the denial in the eligibility notice or the denial notice. But they can't tell. They won't call you on the phone and say, hey, I see what you're trying to do here, but you're over the income limit. You're over the asset limit. They won't tell you that. Their handbook policy rules tell them they can't tell you that probably because they don't want someone to appeal and say, look, the caseworker is the one who told me to do this, because they'll just turn right back around and say, actually, no, we're forbidden to do that. So it didn't happen.
Right.
So they may give advice, but they will never admit to giving
that
advice.
They did it. Right. That's good.
Right. Because they're actually forbidden from giving you advice. Give you an example. We've had someone recently who came to us. They applied for Medicaid in December of 2024.
Okay.
They were over the income limit. Okay. The income limit right now is $2,902.
Okay.
They were over that income limit. Not by much, just by a couple $100. But the nursing facility didn't catch it. They filed the Medicaid application. This is a person who had no other assets, but their income is just a hair over the limit. But that's something that's easy to solve with the qualified income trust or Miller trust. Okay. These are trusts that are routine in elder practice. It takes 10 minutes to prepare, 10 minutes to explain to the client how to set it up. We follow them through to the bank. They open a bank account, run their income through the account. This is what Medicaid wants. Satisfies the income limit. But the facility didn't catch it. Medicaid didn't tell them that was the reason for the denial. In fact, the case was getting denied based on failure to provide information timely, which happens all the time. The nursing facility appealed and appealed and appealed and appealed. That process went from December of 2024 to finally being resolved in December of 2025.
Wow.
About $86,000 in debt to the nursing facility when they finally they won their appeal. They did provide information on time, but then the case was promptly denied again for being over the income limit. And that was something that we corrected in 10 minutes. But it's something that the family thought, we can't pay for the facility. We have no assets.
Right.
Our income's not enough to satisfy $6,000 a month. We have $3,000 a month. Well, that $3,000 a month, unfortunately, is just over that income limit, which is a small hurdle. But if you don't know that hurdle's there, you'll never get over it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's some really good advice. That's great. And it is occurring to me in this moment, somebody needs an advocate. Like, that's one of our big things is advocacy for the seniors and for the clients. And people assume that the person behind the desk at the community, at the nursing home, at the facility, wherever, has their best interest at heart. While they may want to, they can't.
Even if they've been there a long time, there are holes in that knowledge. They are not attorneys. But there are also people who think that, well, if I apply with Health and Human Services, these people who are making the decision on my case, they're going to do that accurately because they know what they're doing. Please never assume this, because about maybe a quarter of the approval notices that we get, there's something wrong. Whether it's the amount they have to pay the nursing facility each month is incorrectly calculated. The eligibility month was wrongly determined. It gets denied for some reason that was silly. We have to appeal these cases, and a lot of people will think they come to us for an appointment and they say, "I've been denied," and we look at the reason for the denial and it's bogus. But there's no way that you would know that. You would just assume that this is going through an intense process at the state that's flawless, and the result I get on the other end of the pipe is going to be correct. It's not. It won't be. Sometimes it will be. It tends to be more so for us because we kind of lay everything out to where it's mistake proof. But even then, the state makes mistakes on those cases because this may be the first one they've ever done. They may have been there for 2 weeks. They get a 1-week training. So if you have applied before and you've been denied, don't let that be the final answer for you.
Okay. I love that. There's a lot of people involved and humans who make mistakes and errors. So just keep going, keep trying, seek professional counsel.
It's very rare that you wouldn't be eligible for Medicaid if you have the medical need. There are certain cases where that's true, but most of the time you can get Medicaid if you have the medical need. It's just a matter of arming yourself with the right information.
Okay, awesome. A lot of times what I find is when somebody needs to go to a nursing home or skilled nursing facility or something like that, it's usually after an event. Somebody gets sick, somebody gets hurt, there's a medical diagnosis, and it's not like an easy process. So what are some things they could do before to be prepared for that event?
So something that it's not an easy conversation for families to have. When you're competent and you're handling your own decisions, you don't want to think about, illness or death even. But some of the documents that are really helpful to have are what we call estate documents that can include power of attorneys or wills or certain stuff like that. So when you have an illness, and we in particular need to kind of keep the ball rolling when it comes to maintaining your caregiving needs in the nursing facility or maneuvering some of the finances, we can only do that if we have authority to do that. And if the person can't speak for themselves, the only way to continue that is to have power of attorneys in place. So if the person can still sign, that's great. And so we'll promptly do that immediately, whether you are at the hospital or you transition to a facility. But if you're in a situation where you can't sign anymore, you might be kind of stuck at an impasse if we can't move forward with access to certain stuff.
Right. And that power of attorney document is the most important. It's the easiest, but it is the most important estate planning document you can have. It's more important than a will. The state will determine where your assets go. And it's generally, they do a pretty good job of determining where things should go if you don't have a will. But without a power of attorney, when a person loses that ability to speak for themselves, whether they've had a stroke or something, some sort of event, or whether it's slow, Alzheimer's over time. When they lose that ability, our ability to plan shrinks. Because if they can't sign documents and you don't have access to bank statements, you don't have access to life insurance policies, what we're left with is guardianship, which is an expensive process on its own. You will regret not having that power of attorney because it's so simple to have access through that power of attorney. Because with guardianship, everything that you do to plan for Medicaid has to be approved by a court. Now the guardianship court and you will not know what that judge's philosophy is about Medicaid. He or she may feel like you should spend every dollar and not preserve a penny. So guardianship is something that we want to avoid if we can, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's necessary just to get access to the account so you can pay the facility.
Absolutely. And that's we learned that the hard way. Even if you're 40 years old, you still need a power of attorney. You still need some estate planning. And where I was going to rope into that earlier was, can someone have a consultation? What I'm thinking would be a good plan. You tell me if we need to adjust it. Can come in, have a consultation with y'all. start to put together, power of attorney, a will, some light estate planning stuff, get that started, but then start to talk about Medicaid and, what they're going to do as they get older, or maybe their parents, what their situations are, and then kind of build over time. Start with the important basic, a POA, and then start to build what they don't know so that they can plan for the future in case something happens. Because we may have $1 million today, or we may have $1 today, but we don't know what we're going to have in 4 years, 5 years, 15 years from now. So is that something they can all put together?
Yeah, absolutely. We love a proactive conversation. We have lots of families where we meet with them first to do estate planning, and we kind of see them through the whole process. Maybe they think they have an early diagnosis of something, and so they want to pre-plan for stuff. What we encourage is to not go to the internet and print off certain documents and presume that is going to be sufficient. Even if it is sufficient, there's a lot of creative things that we do specifically based on the area of law we practice. So you may have a basic power of attorney, but there's a lot of things that we could have added to it or kind of had the foresight to include certain things in the power of attorney that would make it advantageous later on.
Or perhaps the power of attorney does include the things that we would need, but you don't initial them.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know that they were important. So, and I have had situations where clients come to us, they really have nothing. There's no way they can pay even for a document as simple as a power of attorney. And I lead them to the best one online that I can find, which is through the Texas Health and Human Services website. They have a power of attorney. It's not great, but it is free. And so we always I never want a client to go away feeling like I needed something, I couldn't get it because it was too expensive. So we will find a way to get you what you need for what you can afford.
I love that. That's awesome. That's truly like serving people. And that's what we're all about, is to make sure at least education, knowledge, and some kind of resource that can help you out. So if somebody wants to arm themselves with the right information, how do they reach out? How do they get a hold of y'all?
Well, they can give us a call. We have what we call an intake process. So you'll start with our intake, give them some preliminary information, and we have questionnaires that you can fill out. The more documents you provide, the better the consult you're going to get. Some people are comfortable with that, but so if you're not, we can still provide a comprehensive consult. But you'll kind of go through the process and get a free consult.
Yeah, you can visit our website. We have a lot of free information there, white papers that we've created. Any questions that you have that are specific to Medicaid, you can probably find the answer at our website. It's www.thehalelawfirm.com. But yeah, give us a call, because even if you say, look, I'm not ready right now to provide any information, I just want a consultation with an attorney. If you're that type of person, we talk to them every day. So call in, we'll shoot the breeze, and we'll get at the things that we need to know about. You do not have to have access to every account. You don't have to have, you can ballpark with us, and just ballparking with us will give you a lot of information, probably 90% of the information you need.
Well, thank y'all for watching, guys. Thanks for being on. I think that was some awesome information. If you got value from this, please share it with someone who you think might find value, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.